So there's so much to unpack. So where do we go from here? And Juanita, I'm going to hand it over to you to say, okay, everybody, don't panic. There's something that we can do here. So tell us.
Awesome. So first off, I have to admit, you're right, Dana. And to be honest, I'm still absorbing for day-to-day application across all these different studies and reports that we've seen. But I obviously do have some initial ideas that are really energizing me and maybe even keeping me up a little bit at night. So what was made unmistakably clear this year is that brand is no longer a communications function. It's now a full funnel growth engine that creates belief, credibility, and emotional safety across the entire buyer journey. So brand builds the confidence that buyers need to consider you as a business. Demand reinforces that confidence when they begin evaluating. And ABX really is no longer the third motion, it's the delivery system for brand and demand across the entire buying group. So the problem is that most organizations still treat brand, demand, and ABX as three separate motions. We see it all the time. Yes. So for example, in mid to enterprise-sized organizations, this can look like three separate teams that are penetrating the market independently with little to no strategic alignment. So like as an outsider to a business, some telltale signs for me are I see things like disconnected organic LinkedIn posts. So there's multiple messages a day, nothing's really cohesive. Secondly, you'll see maybe ads popping up in what appears to be a random messaging framework, or even receiving emails that are hitting your inbox with no clear messaging strategy. So you might get one message about product A and you might get another message about product B. There's nothing that really allows you to see kind of like the overall platform or products and how they work together. So the Stein and 6 Sense research shows what happens when we as marketers cling to the same way of doing things. It's detrimental to the business. Honestly, it's so damaging that you never even will make the vendor shortlist that Marta was just talking about a few moments ago. So when we talk about brand, we're not talking about identity. We're talking about confidence, about building the trust, cultural alignment, and defensible proof that a diverse buying group needs to say yes together, both the technical and the process buyers. And so that means a modern brand to demand system can't just market to the technical buyers anymore. You have to earn the confidence of the people behind the scenes, those process buyers or hidden buyers, to determine whether the deal moves forward or sort of dies quietly in committee.
Yeah, so it's funny. I just have to add a little data point in here, Juanita. So okay. I often hear, well, you just can't measure brand impact. And I'm like, oh, yes, you can. You can measure brand impact, because when those things are working together, lead generation gets more effective, right? And we show that all the time, that you don't have to have the digital path. You have to have the right data infrastructure to see the impact, see whether this is actually occurring, and you can see it improve. It's really kind of that nirvana of marketing when you get the data infrastructure to actually see the impact. It's amazing, and it's so great for the rest of your executive peers, right? When you can point to the data and say, "We told you so," right? So
it's a beautiful thing when you can see the data.
Such a beautiful thing. So tell us, these hidden buyers. What can we do? What are you recommending?
Yeah, as I was reading the various research, like one of the things I was even asking myself, okay, so when Monday rolls around, what are the things that I could do? And so I came up with these 5 actions that every CMO and their team could take. One is diagnose the deals that have stalled, and this will help you find the hidden buyer fingerprints. So you're going to look at where deals are stalling or quietly dying inside the CRM. And even if notes are imperfect in the system, which they always are, patterns reveal when finance, legal, security, procurement actually stepped in and stopped the momentum. So this is your first clue, and you're under supporting hidden buyers. Secondly, I would audit personas. I've seen a lot of personas that are dated 3 years ago or 5 years ago. And so perhaps those may not capture those hidden buyers. And so I would start there too. So if your personas don't have them, like if IT is not listed or compliance or procurement, then your marketing is only supporting half the buying group. And so I would embark on refreshing those personas. Third, I'd re-interview the sales team. They hold a lot of intelligent information, and ask them what's really shaping outcomes. Some questions you could ask are, who killed your last deal? Who creates late stage objections? Whose approval is required even if we never meet them? They've never shown up at a meeting. And then fourth, I would expand your messaging and build that layer in for the hidden buyers. Like Marta mentioned earlier, they don't care about features, they care about a risk, viability, defensibility. Is the vendor safe to do business with? And start creating brand messaging and content such as why we're a safe choice, how we can reduce risk. And then finally, I would orchestrate both buyer groups and begin with the brand to demand ABX system. So you're going to shift your content, your campaigns, and your enablement to serve both your technical and your process buyers. This doesn't require full transformation overnight, but small incremental steps like role-based messaging and cross-functional orchestration, that begins to build the modern confidence system that buyers actually need.
I love it. I love it. And I know that another thing you've been absorbing, Juanita, that we've chatted about is the Stein 6 Sense playbook for B2B growth. Share with our viewers here what you've taken away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I feel like they made crystal clear is that there is a new buying landscape. And so you may remember the 95-5 rule, the idea that 95% of B2B buyers are out of market and there's only 5% that are actively buying. But what Stein and 6 Sense did was they took that rule and they made it more actionable, in my opinion. They showed that buyers actually operate in 3 distinct behavioral states. 60% of them are out of market, 34% are in active exploration and evaluation, and just 6% are in actual decision or purchasing stage. This shift to me is most of the decision making happens long before those intent signals ever appear. And that's exactly what led us to build the Valmeris confidence model. It's a behavioral framework, like we talked earlier, I love frameworks, that explains how confidence forms, accelerates, and gets validated inside the buying groups. So mode 1 is what we're calling passive absorption. So here buyers aren't shopping, but they are forming impressions. They're absorbing your category signals. They're noticing which brands feel credible, modern, and safe. And your hidden buyers are doing this too. And this is where future shortlists are shaped and where brand builds the memory structures you rely on later. If you're not present here, you're eliminated before evaluation even begins. Mode 2 is the shortlist formation. And so when a need arises, everything accelerates. Buyers from their shortlist form their shortlist within 24 to 72 hours. So we don't have a lot of time. And here is where brand and demand must work in parallel. Brand creates recognition and trust, and demand delivers clarity and proof. And so your hidden buyers, like finance, IT, legal, they're already weighing risk and viability. And this is where credibility is either won or lost. And then finally, mode 3 is decision confidence. And at this stage, buyers aren't choosing a vendor, they're just validating a choice now. We may call it decision and purchase, but it's really validation. And the question shifts from who has the best features, because that no longer is relevant because your technical buyers already brought the vendors to the table that meet those requirements. And now we're shifting to, can I defend this internally? Will our CFO or our legal department or security even sign off? And this is where your hidden buyers have the most influence. Often they have veto power at this stage. And this moment is about defensibility, internal alignment, and trust either holds or collapses. So across these three modes, one truth really holds true, and that's the modern B2B buyers confidence driven. They're not lead driven. And that means disconnected brand and demand motions aren't just inefficient, they're really just truly a revenue risk.
Okay, so our attendees here, Juanita, are still panicking, right? So now we we understand these folks. We see, like, we're starting to see where they are, what they're doing. So what do we do, right? How do we operationalize addressing all of these personas, and what do we do from a go-to-market perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I tried my very best to kind of outline how I see this working together. So, how does brand demand and ABX all work together? Because each mode requires a different kind of confidence building, and each one activates, in my mind, a different ABX motion. And so, looking at this beautiful framework that you see here, in passive absorption, where we see 60% of the buyers are out of market, here's where future confidence is shaping through brand signals like reputation, memory, cultural fit. And here, the activation for me is ABX one-to-many and brand-led memory building, so category entry points, early cues for hidden buyers, essentially preparing the ground for shortlist formation. And then when we move over to mode 2, when buyers enter the shortlist formation and confidence starts accelerating as they compare vendors, this is where I see brand and demand running in parallel, trust and relevance, and orchestrating that through an ABX one-to-few to deliver role-specific proof, point of views, credibility signals across the buying group. And then when we move to mode 3, and we're in decision confidence, where only 6% of the buyers remain, and consensus determines the win. Here is where I would double down on ABX one-to-one, and that's going to be extremely essential at this part of the decision confidence mode. And this is where we support hidden buyers like procurement and finance, and with defensibility, viability, and risk mitigation. It's deep buying group enablement and champion empowerment at this stage. So Stein and 6 Sense never call this like ABX explicitly, but the dynamics they describe in their research are ABX conditions, things like coordinated trusted signals, social proof, and orchestration across the invisible network of buyers. So brand demand and ABX aren't separate motions. They're a blended orchestration system across the buying group. So brand creates confidence, demand reinforces it, and ABX carries it across every stakeholder so consensus can be formed. So we've now covered how modern buyers make decisions, why brand and demand must operate as one confidence system, and how blended ABX turns that trust into buying group alignment. But even if we get all of that right, there's still a deeper fracture underneath, the data foundation. And that's where Marta and Dana will take us next, because without trust in the data, the entire system stays fragile.